The oldest and strongest human emotion is fear, and the oldest and strongest type of fear is trepidation of the unknown. When we were children, our parents told us that monsters didn't exist, but we were sure that something was lurking under the bed or in the closet. Fear sees even if our eyes are closed. Welcome to the realm of the arcane. My name is Les Strickler. Join me as I examine unexplained creatures, strange manifestations, and remarkable realities. Imagine this next hour as a voyage of discovery to strange lands, seeking not for new territory, but for new knowledge of the supernatural. Come on board as we begin this adventure together. Hey folks, good evening and welcome to another episode of Arcane Radio, where we explore the unexplained live on Beyond Explanation. I'm your host, Les Strickler, coming to you with within a cannon shot of the hallowed grounds of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining me. Arcane Radio and Beyond Explanation channel are made possible by you liking, subscribing, and sharing our programming. Super chat donations are essential for us to continue offering you our unique content, and your consideration is very much appreciated. Now, monsters, this is what we like to talk about. And, it's when we talk about monsters, it's best to have the person who's kind of put the name monster out there in the ether, I would suppose. So tonight, I welcome television film producer and screenwriter Doug Hajicek to Arcane Radio. Now, Doug has been a successful television documentary series producer and show creator, committed to bringing innovative ideas and real-life content to the screen. He is a credentialed technologist, camera systems inventor, wildlife researcher, documenting never seen before behaviors in many wildlife settings. Doug is the president and founder of WHITEWOLF Entertainment Incorporated, a television production company specializing in nonfiction programming. With over 270 TV features under his belt, including his hit series MonsterQuest for the History Channel. Doug has been producing television shows for national networks since 1985. Is currently developing a full-length movie and/or series entitled Legend Meets Science 2, or Legend Meets Science Series. The release date is planned for this fall. In 2015, Doug joined forces with Les Stroud, acting as his technical director and consultant for Stroud's TV series, Survivor Man Bigfoot. He currently co-hosts and produces Untold Radio AM on several live and podcast networks. Live shows air and are recorded each Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. He has also spent a considerable time in TV show development with veteran stand-up comedians. One of Doug's innovations is the Trojan Squid Cam, used to film the world's first free-swimming giant squid. His MonsterQuest Predators of the Deep special aired 14 years later. In it, its experts confirmed that was the first and only film of a living giant squid species, estimated to be 54 foot long, a perfect definition of a monster. So, Doug, thanks for joining me this evening.
Hello, Lon. Really happy to be here. As I was telling you, you're one of the people I really admired you for many years, so I'm honored to be here.
Well, I appreciate that. Monsters are our game, I suppose, if you want to put it that way.
You're definitely somebody I listened to for, since I can remember.
Well, I thank you for the flattery. Yeah. And, you and I have talked off and on over the years and chatted back and forth. And maybe I rubbed off on a few things, a few ideas. I hope that's the case anyway. How did you get, everybody will ask you this and want to know, how did MonsterQuest start? Because actually, that was the groundbreaking series for these cryptid television phenomena.
Yeah, there was actually a series before it that nobody knows about that I did that was on TV, except it was a, a small broadcast network called the Outdoor Life Network. But it was the first TV series on just Bigfoot, and it was called Mysterious Encounters. But nobody knows about it. Autumn Williams was the lead. Matt Moneymaker was in it. Bobo was in it. There was just a number of people, but that was kind of groundbreaking. But basically, I was up in the Arcticon, and I was up there doing wildlife research and filming for a wildlife TV show. And I saw a 6-foot long giant lake trout. I mean, this thing was massive, and it was trying to eat a 30-pound trout that I was reeling in. So we had a little R&R one day, so I wasn't working, and just kind of had the camera go, sitting on the side, so if something did happen. And of course, I'm fighting a 30-pound fish, and I'm seeing this giant thing. I thought it was a man swimming in the water trying to come after my fish. So to make a long story short, I got home, couldn't get it out of my head, called a fisheries biologist who I had heard of, who had written a lot of the Time Life books on fisheries. And we decided that, he also knew that there were these giant fish up in the Arctic because the water is deep, it's sterile, it's cold, there's no bacteria in the water. And so we flew up there, landed at Selwyn Lake. I was with a number of other people, and we stopped to take a pee break. And we came upon these giant footprints that came out of the water up into the sand. But where I knew it was a monster, because there was a footprint in front of the tree trunk and then one behind the tree trunk of a 7-foot tall stunted spruce tree. And so whatever it was stepped over the tree. That was clear. And so we, once again, to try to speed forward, I got back home, couldn't get that out of my head, ended up getting a hold of Matt Moneymaker. And we ended up hitting it off and talking, and he educated me. And then we started pitching Legend Meets Science, Sasquatch Legend Meets Science, which we finally sold it to Discovery Channel. And that was the first scientific Bigfoot documentary ever done. And then from that, I did Mysterious Encounters, the first Bigfoot TV series that nobody ever heard of. And then from that, I was pitching Giganto, the real King Kong. And I couldn't sell it because I was just calling it Giganto. And nobody wanted to buy it. And then finally, I added the words the real King Kong on the back. 2 days later, it was sold to History Channel. And so I hurried up, produced that. And that was also extremely scientific, a lot of science in it. And it aired, and they literally called me up, Lon, and said, "Can you do more of these?" And so MonsterQuest was born. That's how it happened.
So who came up with the name? You did?
Yes, out of a million other ones, I mean, it was when you do a name roll, you just start writing, and you just get brain diarrhea, and you just start writing any damn name. And finally, I think we combined 2 words, monster and quest. And I think it was a good name because it sounded humble enough. Like it wasn't like, Monster Find. It was just Monster Quest, because that's what it was. It was a quest.
Yeah, no, I was raised up on In Search of, and that was kind of like the first show for me. I was raised up in the air at the time when the Betty and Barney Hill abduction was starting to hit the mainstream. That was really what fascinated me in the paranormal and UFOs and the unexplained. Then of course, watching the Patterson Gimlin film and such. But there was a large lull there between those shows and MonsterQuest. When MonsterQuest came out, I had just started writing the blog, and of course I had been collecting this the stories for years, and I had my own encounters as well. But I saw that and I thought, oh my God, this is going to blow up. I loved it. There was something very new, very raw, but it just they had those great graphics in it and the great stories and people who knew what was going on, and actually talking about Bigfoot in real life, and it was just different, and I think that was the big draw to it.
Yeah, I mean, it did well. It was the thing. It was continuing to set new records on the History Channel during prime time.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we had a prime time slot, and it ran its course. I don't know really what went wrong. People always say, "Well, you must have ran out of things to cover." It's like, no, there's no way that would ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it ran its course, and I kind of, I burned out quite a bit on doing that show. There were some years I was doing 26 1-hour episodes.
Wow.
If you can imagine, I mean, that's like you get up in the morning, you work all day, you eat supper, you will go to work after supper, you maybe take another little break, and then you work till like 4 a.m. Then you get up, then you go to bed at 4 a.m, get up at 8, start all over. And you do that for 4 years. And just after a while, you get burned out. Not once did I even take one vacation during that 4 years.
Well, that show kind of put the well-known cryptozoologists and such out there, put their names out there to where they are at today, and innovative, and you ought to be absolutely proud of that. I'm quite sure you are. It's an amazing achievement.
Well, I was teasing Jeff Meldrum. We were at a conference, and I did it publicly. I was, speaking, and I was explaining my pee break that I took, and how that pee break completely changed my life. And then I started thinking about it real time, and I'm thinking, and I'm seeing Jeff sitting over there, and I'm like, think about how it changed your life, Jeff, because I put you on TV for the first time. And now you have this big career. Literally, he does TV constantly. And, he's pretty well known. And, but I was lucky enough to find people like him and find all the people that did support me. And a lot of them have gone on, their careers are cooking on TV right now. So It's kind of neat. Yeah, I'm very proud of that.
As you should be. And, I didn't know that your involvement with Les Stroud and Survivor Man Bigfoot. Tell us a bit about that. How'd that develop?
Well, I saw Les on, I think it was the Anthony and Opie and Anthony podcast. And Les was being pressured by them. Just, they had asked him, did anything weird ever happen to you? And he just, Les is really honest, and he just zinged out his show or his experience that happened while he was producing his regular Survivor Man show. And I heard that, and I thought, oh, crap, I'm calling Les. So I wrote him an email right away. I mean, that same day I saw the thing, and I said, man, I explained to him, one, somebody with your credibility and your outdoor skills, you're going to be able to make a huge dent in this mystery. If nothing else, you're going to be able to raise the bar. And so we ended up, he said, well, I'm going to be out in Philadelphia in, 2-3 weeks. Why don't you fly out and meet me? So I flew out there and met him.
Well, tell us a bit about Doug. I mean, how did you start in this? How did you become involved with all this, this entertainment bug that you have, and then your great career? Tell us a bit about it.
Oh my God, my career was weird. Okay, it started out probably at a very young age. My grandfather was actually in the polymer mixing business. And so I was just aware of plastics and rubber. And so one day I was noticing the weather stripping on cars was really bad. And I went out and just set up to start inventing a weather strip, a new type of weather strip that was high quality. Because back in the 60s, it was bad. I mean, it was just nasty. So I started mixing chemicals and whatnot, because here was my goal at a young age. If I could invent this, then I could do what I wanted to do, which was television and wildlife research. So that was what motivated. It wasn't the money. It was the fact I knew if I could invent something really cool, then I could do what I wanted to do. And so that's what I did. Had success, took me eight long years, but had success finally. And literally when everything was rolling good, I had the money coming in. I contacted a guy named Ron Shera, and I pitched him doing a TV show, and he said, yeah, let's do it. A week later, a network, CBS, said, yeah, we'll take it. Next thing you know, here's this kid who really had no experience in TV at all, had a TV show. Scared out of my mind. No training, no anything. But I just worked harder probably than other people because I had no training. And I had to hire people and whatnot. But I learned the business quick and started eventually shooting, editing. But I kept doing wildlife research. I was curious about what goes on at the bottom of a giant lake like Lake Superior when no one's around. So I would go to work and I would just start calling scientists up cold and saying, here, this is my project, what I have in mind. Are you willing to help? And they'd say, yeah. And so I just kept calling people. Next thing you know, a year later, I'd find myself on a big research ship with some crazy contraption I built in my garage with 50 divers, helicopters. It's just about kind of really trying to spread the enthusiasm for curiosity. And so I just kept doing those kinds of things in wildlife. And then I would get networks sometimes excited about funding or giving me a documentary. Like I did The Man That Walks with Bears. And in that doc, we used infrared for the first time ever on television. Had never been used. I invented a camera system that could go in a bear's den for the whole winter. And remember, this is back almost pre-internet days. It was when most people did not have a computer yet. Some did, but not many. And certainly if you had a computer, they probably didn't have internet. So I was a little bit ahead of my time. So I did that doc. We had Mark Hamill to narrate it from Star Wars. And that kind of launched then my national career. And I just kept doing stuff. And I was trying to unlock secrets, other dimensional things like beavers, what goes on in a beaver lodge. No one had ever put a camera in a wild beaver lodge. So it took 2 years, finally got a camera in a beaver lodge and figured out how to do it. Then lo and behold, there they are with muskrats that are grooming them and working with them. And they're doing all the flooring and the bedding, and the beavers are doing the walls and the ceiling as the water levels rise. But it was just those kinds of things that just kept motivating me. So in some ways I cheated. I used TV as my funder to be able to do wildlife research. I mean, that's how I did it. I cheated.
Well, I can tell you, I've been kind of thinking the same route for Phantoms and Monsters to kind of putting it out on the road at some point.
Well, you already have the greatest name ever. Phantoms and Monsters is like amazing. Because I remember that's how I found you first. I'm like, I don't care what website this takes me to. I'm on it. Because the name was so intriguing. But yeah, I mean, you should be doing that. I would love to talk to you about Phantom and Monsters.
Oh, well, we should talk then.
Yeah,
I'm quite sure we will talk. I do have a question from James West. Are there any projects in the works that you can talk about?
Sure, I've got a number of things. So I kind of went into retirement for a while. Then I joined Facebook, and I ended up getting 3 TV agents that are helping me with getting some projects sold. And those I can't talk about because they're actually, talking to networks and so on. But I can say one's on crime, but a very different, it's got a very different twist to it. But it's solving and helping families in a much higher tech way, in a much quicker way than what's being done now. I definitely have Legend Meets Science 2 in the works. We're actually shooting for that right now. And that's going to be like a 2-hour film where it picks up where Legend Meets Science 1 left off, which became Jeff Meldrum wrote a 300-page book, which I'm very proud of because it's the first scientific book ever on the mystery. And but we've got 20 new pieces of evidence, Lon, categories. So I want you to think about this. 20 new categories of evidence that has never seen the light of day. I'm not talking about pieces of evidence. I'm talking about whole categories that's bigger than individual pieces. Because once this information gets out, then it'll allow a lot of people to be gather more evidence than's currently being gathered right now, which is very little. Everybody's looking for the film, the camera trap, maybe a hair. But people don't really even know what to do with the hair because it's a problem. So we're working on solving and getting out there 20 new categories. And that's what I'm really, really excited about.
We got an extra question here from Blue Crossroads. What's the ratio of actual research versus creative artistic drama?
For what? For MonsterQuest?
Let's say MonsterQuest or any of the shows that you do.
I always think of it, all of it is research, the reality shows. And sometimes you have to redo something. I mean, that just goes without saying. If somebody says something and your battery was dead and you got to reload a new battery, you're going to say, can you repeat that line? But that's about it for the drama. Or, oh, geez, I had a smudge in my lens. Can you rewalk that? Walk that again. That's about as much drama as we ever pumped into MonsterQuest.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. The one thing about paranormal TV that has really bugged me especially the last couple of years is the use of so much so-called technology, spirit boxes and that type of thing. It kind of goes away from reality to me. It's more entertainment, and that's one thing I really liked about MonsterQuest was that it kind of backed away from it. Was entertainment there, of course, it has to be a bit, but it really got to the nuts and bolts of the phenomena, and that's what I really enjoyed.
Well, I think about things that we did. There's other firsts that we did. We filmed the first 12-foot shark in fresh water that had swam way up the St. Lawrence Seaway. Literally, we filmed it right in front of a guy's walleye dock. Where the guy, just a freshwater river, and way almost in the center of North America. Here's this 12-foot shark. What the heck? So we did that. We got great footage of that. We had a number of things that we're very proud of. Put a lot of cameras on animals. Sometimes they didn't always work because, once again, it's just technology failure. But we just told it as it was. If something failed, then, it failed. It just failed. But we did have a lot of science. We did a lot of lab tests. I think for MonsterQuest, I spent more money on lab tests than probably all the shows combined to date.
Yeah, that's one thing you got to look at, how much actual money is pumped into a show like that. I can't even imagine how much it is, but it's got to take up a majority of the budget, I would believe.
It did in many cases. And then you have your travel, it just got really expensive. It's like a bunch of piranhas eating a whale. When you're doing a TV show like that, because it does have to be high quality.
Right.
And then you have to have, custom music written because it's for the History Channel, for the soundtrack. And the narrators are usually really good and they're high paid, but they're good. I mean, I thought our narrator just was amazing. There was one phenomena, one cryptid that really fascinated me and kind of got me interested in the actual phenomena itself, was the giant squid. And you guys covered that on MonsterQuest. Right. And of course, your innovation led to the actual sighting or actual filming of a live specimen. Can you tell us about that? Well, you remember I told you about the trout, Lon?
Right.
Okay. So I just basically, when I went up there with this guy, this biologist, we basically were making these big fish lures with cameras embedded in them. Because we wanted to not just catch one, we wanted to film it. Because we figured more than likely it's going to be wary. So we're just hoping to get it to come up into strike range to film it. So I did the exact same thing for the squid. Built what we called the pseudomorph to catch a squid big enough to we can put a camera on a real squid and then send him down. And that's just what we did. We had a camera literally with a clip and a cotter pin that went on a squid that was about 5 foot long, sent him down because what's going to be, it's a big giant squid isn't going to be wary of a squid, right?
Right.
And that was the goal. And of course it was, because as this camera squid went down, we were really surprised. Other squid were coming up and just feeling the camera. I mean, they were just touching it as it was just kept going down, down, down. Squid kept running in, touching our camera, and then taking off. Just like they were playing tag with the camera, and then went down, and finally here's this mammoth thing with, tentacles that were 1.5 feet wide, and an eyeball that probably was about 1.5 feet big. And it just came up with tentacles wide open to our, our Trojan squid, and then it's backed off too. Got freaked out. But if a squid freaked it out, I could only imagine what an ROV would do, one of these mechanical robots that like the Smithsonian's been trying to get footage forever. But here was the theory. This was the theory that I had, and I'm sticking to it because I think it's correct. Some animals get out of their niche, even Architeuthis. So a female will just never lay eggs. And then they'll stay at the bottom, and they'll just basically get out of their niche. Maybe instead of living 2-3 years, they're gonna live 50 years, 20 years, and they're just gonna keep on growing and growing. And so that's what the deal was with the trout. I believe they were female trout that just got out of their niche, never bred, and they didn't lose their life force. And so they just kept growing, getting bigger, and they become cannibals. And so that was my theory, even with Architeuthis, that many of them just die very quick before they get to these mammoth proportions.
Mm-hmm.
So that squid is still swimming around, and maybe that squid will still be around 100 years from now. So the legends of the Kraken, very well might be a squid that is dying finally, that's just massive. And of course, what's it going to do when it starts dying? It's going to float up to the surface. And it's not going to die instantly. Its blood's going to boil. It's going to become in great pain. And the tentacles, picture 3 foot wide tentacles flailing, and trying to grab onto something because it's drowning. Literally, it can't get oxygen. You filter oxygen out of the water. So I would imagine that's maybe the legend of the Kraken. So I believe there's a lot of sea creatures that stay deep, become cannibals. They never come up, and they get their nutrition from the smaller ones that will go up and down the water column. So they're just eating that, and then they're getting all that water column nutrition. So that was my theory, and it worked. It doesn't mean it'll ever work again because we've tried it, other teams have tried it, and it's failed. So we might have been like Patterson and Gimlin and just got lucky.
Yeah.
We don't know that. It's already been 14, 15 years now, and no one's done it. And trust me, numerous teams have tried.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know they have. What Vincent wants to know, what's the strangest case or report you ever come across?
Oh my God, probably my own.
Yeah, and I want to get into that as well.
Oh my God, I get so, like you, I get so many of them, and they're hard to just have one gel or pop to mind.
I whiff on that question a lot myself.
Yeah, to me, okay, I just heard one today that was probably the strangest case I've ever heard, just today. And so that's they keep topping themselves. And no matter which one I give, Vincent, I'm going to forget about 100 other ones that are just as amazing or more amazing. So I'm doing a disservice. So I'd rather just, just tell some of my own.
Okay. Yeah. Well, tell us. I think you're talking about the winged humanoid that you and your wife ran across one day. And, I had documented that on the blog, and I didn't realize it was your case until I was on your radio show, Untold Radio, recently.
Yep. I was shy about telling the story, Lon. I wanted to be, anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had a number of things. I mean, from the time I was a little kid, I think I was maybe 9. I had my first paranormal experience, which, once again, these things are far and few in between.
Mm-hmm.
But when they happen to you, they're life-changing. And I tend to think there's very few of us that haven't had 1 or 2 or 3 life-changing events that we keep to ourselves. We don't tell anybody, or we don't tell, it doesn't get out of the circles of your sister or your brother or somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, so we were driving south of Cloquet, heading towards Moose Lake. And it was a beautiful night, full moon, clear skies, beautiful stars. I even remember the song that was on the radio was a song by Don McLean, Vincent. And we were just in a good mood and driving, and all of a sudden everything changed. So up in the sky, we see something drop straight down like a spider. You ever seen a spider drop down on a web and it just, jolt at the end of the web? I think they make it real quick and then they jolt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this thing did with outspread wings. So it's up in the sky, up by the moon, dropped straight down with outspread wings, got to maybe, 10 feet above the road when it dropped. So it almost hit the ground and then made a beeline right for my car windshield. And, we're just in shock. I mean, this all happened so quick. You go from just this relaxing music on, beautiful full moon night, driving back from up north, up out in the woods. And then the next thing you know, you've got a monster charging you in your car. And it got close to the windshield. Yvette ducked. And I just, I'm driving. And I just want to see this thing. And eventually I had to duck because it looked like it was coming right through the windshield.
Mm-hmm.
But what I saw, Lon, I can only describe as a gargoyle-like creature. Did not have glowing eyes. It looked like it had black eyes, pointed ears, bat-like wings, very shiny skin. And me and Yvette argue on the size. I say both lanes of the freeway, and she thinks like 1.5 lanes. But it was big. I mean, these wings were big enough to support a man. But here's the weird thing. When it dropped, it defied physics. You cannot drop straight down with your wings outspread. That's when I went, oh, this thing's got to be paranormal. Because it defied, and it never flapped its wings. So it dropped straight down and then headed right for the car. I should probably do it a little more on, there we go. So straight down and then choom at the car. It's just very, very weird.
And that's very similar to a lot of the sightings that we have had, especially with just like people just driving down the highway and these things seem to charge at them and then suddenly swoop up above the car.
Yeah.
And of course you'll react at it. You're going to duck by a reaction. And it's a wonder if anybody has ever been hurt or crashed or as a result.
There actually is. I do know of a crash where a man actually broke his spine. Yeah. Did a rollover. He was attacked by one of these things, and his car flipped over, and he rolled over and broke his spine. Ended up in a wheelchair.
Well, my team and I have been looking into this phenomenon ever since this all started way back in 2011 around Chicago. And of course, when it picked up again in 2017.
Right.
What are your thoughts on this? I mean, you said supernatural. Do you think it's a supernatural being, or you think there's something else involved with it?
I think it has to be, Lon. I mean, probably almost a bigger question as to why they're here is what the hell do they want? Why did it do what it did? Was it trying to scare me? Was it trying to scare Yvette? Was it trying to scare both? Was it trying to kill us? Was it trying to have our car flip over? Does it have a sense of humor? Was it laughing? Saying, oh my God, watch this. We're going to shake these people. Does it feed off fear? The weird thing is the area that we saw this thing actually did get washed out, including the bridge. Got washed out by a 100-year flood.
I remember you telling me.
That wiped out Duluth and wiped out parts of Moose Lake, Cloquet. And so I find that coincidental, but who knows? I think that happened probably about a month and a half later after we saw it. I have to look up the year.
Right.
But I'm just so curious, like, what did it want? I think about that over and over in my brain. What was the purpose of it? And then I think about it when I'm out in the woods at night or just going to get the mail in the middle of the night or putting the garbage out. You're thinking, what if I would have been walking when that thing swooped at us? If I would have been outside the car, would we have been snatched, killed? Is that what's causing missing people? These are all the crazy things that go through my brain.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you almost have to think about that. I mean, you know, this is why it's just, I don't know, it's kind of imprinted on us as well. I mean,
if anybody thinks I have anything to gain by telling that story, you're very wrong.
Oh, no.
I'm a businessman. I've got, my reputation's everything to me.
Right.
But yet I'm thinking I'm also doing people a disservice. I thought about it and thought, well, if somebody else has seen these, which no doubt in that area or somewhere along that corridor, they're going to be just as crazy as I am. And if I could meet that person, it'd be great. And in fact, I ended up doing a MonsterQuest show on the Mothman or on winged humanoids after that, because I was doing pushback on that because there's no physical evidence. Right. So I kept telling the producers at History, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it because there was nothing to examine. What, how can I even do a show? Because I always prided myself in having some physical evidence to look at. There was nothing. But yet I found other people in Minnesota that had been swooped at in their car. Another was a father and the son. They actually were swooped at exactly, literally, if you just drew a ruler from where we were to where they were, dead straight line, straight down the river line. And they pulled over and they were vomiting from either fear or something. I don't know.
It does seem to affect people physically.
Yeah.
This is something that we've tried to look into. We've kind of made some strides more recently, and hopefully it's going to pan out. But it seems to be concentrated for the most part around O'Hara, around the airport, and that I believe is maybe the key to what's going on. And hopefully, we're going to come up with something.
I have somebody I trust very much. I'm not going to give his name, but he is writing a book about my life, and just one of the straightest, normalest people. I mean, he's written books on baseball players, and he's just a regular guy. Never had any paranormal experiences, and he calls me up all freaked out. He said, "Well, I was taking a photo I thought would make kind of a good background for a book cover." And then he sends me the photo, and lo and behold, and up in the clouds, it looks like there's a winged humanoid flying. I got to send you that picture, Lon. Sure. Because the source I trust, and I can give you his number, and you can talk to him, and it's a pretty damn clear picture. Do you have photos of these?
Well, they're kind of few and far between. They're kind of very indiscernible.
Right.
I know and I will say this: there is a Seth Breedlove from Small Town Monsters has done a documentary that's going to be coming out soon, or maybe out now. I don't know, but it may be out soon on his on the Trail series, talking about the late Michigan Mothman. And there is, and I hope this helps sell the film. He does have a small video clip of a winged humanoid being going past his hotel room at the end of the film. Wow. It's an amazing clip.
Is it, I always wondered that, because one of the reasons, like, for instance, I wouldn't tell anybody about my sighting. I mean, it was more of an attack than it was a sighting.
Right.
I'm the MonsterQuest guy. Who in the hell is going to believe me? Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. So I find it interesting that now Seth is saying that he had something swoop by him.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they want some publicity. I mean, it's
Well,
as good as anything else I can come up with.
stranger things have happened,
Yeah.
and we are making an attempt as a team to connect with these beings. It's really in preliminary stage now, but
Interesting.
I think we're on to something, and hopefully, uh, more sooner than later, we're going to be able to come out with more information. So, we had to wait and see. But you know what? I think they do want to be seen, and I've thought that from the very beginning,
Yeah.
because they made themselves known,
Or
though briefly.
maybe they don't want to be proven, but they want the awareness.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean by the awareness? Yeah.
Yeah, of course, people will think, well, this is a harbinger. That's just like what they tried to equate the Silver Bridge collapse with the Point Pleasant Mothman. Well, I don't really believe it.
Are
I
you
think
aware, Lon, that the 35W bridge had a Mothman sighting perched on that bridge?
is that the one in
Where-
Minneapolis you're
Yes.
talking?
Yep.
Yeah, I have heard that. And it seems like a lot of these disasters is kind of after the fact when we get people telling you, well, we saw this, we saw that. Yeah, well, maybe you did, but if there is photographic evidence, yeah, I definitely want to hear and see about it. But and to be quite honest with you, the only one I really believe at this point was the so-called Blackbird of Chernobyl, where people had actually documented seeing this thing flying above the reactor before the actual disaster itself. But we've heard about Fukushima as well. These beings seen above the reactor, but there's no real evidence of it. But
Right.
if there's something that actually ties in the bridge collapse in Minneapolis, I'd definitely like to hear about it.
Yeah, and I just found it coincidental that whole Moose Lake area got wiped out. The bridge, and I just thought, God, what are the chances of that?
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Maybe they are trying to tell us something in a kind of backward way. I don't know.
Definitely, I guess if I was to guess, if I had to bet, so if Lon said, "Hey, Doug, make a bet. Are they alien? Are they spiritual? Whatever," I would go with alien.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of you're saying the same boat, and we do have some kind of anecdotal evidence that may very well be the tie. We've had UFO sightings associated with these beings, but there's a good chance that they may not be connected. Maybe these things are following them for some reason. I don't know. It's still a connection we're trying to make.
It's like the wings are there for show. They never flap them. I had a woman write me from Colorado, and she was describing, and she's like, I saw your MonsterQuest episode, and she explained. She said the weirdest part was that it never flapped its wings.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that over and over and over and over,
Absolutely.
including what I saw, and I'm like, it's like the wings, like the air can go right through them.
Yeah,
they're not even there.
Well, I mean, I told you that, with the sighting I had back in '88, the thing never flashed its wings, flapped its wings. It was self-propelled, and we get that a lot. And the fact that I had that encounter in '88, why am I getting part of these sightings and such now? Is there a coincidence, or is there a real reason behind it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to either call Seth and hear his story, because, once again, the chances of me seeing a Mothman are a jillion to one.
Right. Absolutely.
Guy produced MonsterQuest. He's Mothman. Yep, right.
Well, we do have another question here, and this goes back to the sea. Do you believe that there may very well be a megalodon out there?
Don't know. It's certainly, we've had a lot of these Lazarus type animals pop up. Now we're dealing with, the Tasmanian tiger footage as an example. And some of that footage is damn good. We've got the woodpecker in Texas. The Ivory Bill?
Mm-hmm.
People keep seeing them. Why not? I had a sighting one time that I don't know if it was just a pattern, But we were driving, once again, it was kind of that same area. We're driving north this time. And at the side of the road was an animal that was larger than an elephant. And with huge antlers and kind of an upturned, curved nose. And it was just grazing at the side of the road. And you could see it eating. It was a nice full moon night. And you're just like dumbfounded. Shoom, you drive by it. And you're on a freeway and you can't turn around. And there was actually a podcast that I had to do. I had to get to this hotel really quick. But I get back and I'm looking up giant deer. And sure enough, there's a prehistoric deer in the book that matched exactly what we saw at the side of the road. Right down to the curved nose, the long curved nose of this thing. And I thought, well, is it just a pattern of, like a ghost, basically, a spirit of an animal? Or is there really one or two running around? I don't know. But think about how big the ocean is. So if there's a prehistoric animal living, it's unlikely the deer is out there, but very much more likely that the shark is, because the ocean's so big. We don't have freeways down at the bottom of the ocean.
Right. Well, that's a good point.
Yep.
I've always, this is one thing I've always thought about. I mean, people say they see something that would be more of a relic or something that would closely resemble, just like the pterosaur sightings, throughout the North America.
Well, certainly basking sharks get mistaken.
Yeah.
For these big megalodon sharks.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not basking sharks. It's just that's what the skeptics are always saying.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I have thought that maybe, even do these things come back? Or are they is there kind of a time slip where they can come through in and out? And
that could be it. For all we know, Mothman sightings are all just time glitches. We
don't
know. That's as good as, put it this way, Lon, it's as good as any other explanation.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what we don't know. But God, we know less about the ocean than we do the moon.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, and you being involved in the cryptid world with your show and other projects, I personally believe that folks that look into this phenomena, leisurely or as a very serious enthusiast, need to keep more of an open mind as to what they're dealing with. I mean, are there other reasons, are there paranormal, supernatural reasons as to why they're there? And I believe there absolutely is.
Well, I believe in time glitches only because I have personally experienced them. They cannot be anything else. I've had witnesses in almost every case, and they're just so amazing that you just went, there's some time glitch. I'm happy to relay those, but I have no idea how much time we have.
No, we got time.
Oh, okay. So, just to give a dumb example, I was with my daughter, Asia, and we were up at a family reunion. We're at the hotel. We're waiting to get on an elevator, and here comes this very distinct family. And they come off the elevator, we're waiting to get on. They're coming off, walk past us. We get on the elevator. We go down the elevator. We go out the front door, and here's that same family walking towards us.
Mm.
That's a small example of a time glitch.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter, who have hardly ever even discussed anything paranormal with, looked at me and went, glitch? Well, she was Dad. She was like, glitch? And I went, glitch. And I've seen probably 6 of those kinds of things. And you always wonder, am I just noticing them? Are these happening to all of us, but we just don't notice them?
I think a lot of people have experience but don't acknowledge it for whatever reason.
I think it's a combination of people not noticing and not wanting to think about it.
Well, I think shows like MonsterQuest and what you've developed over the years have kind of opened it up for folks, have given them a reason to not be fearful of coming forward.
Yeah, it helps.
And I applaud you for that, because I've had people tell me when they've reported something. I was watching an old MonsterQuest film show, and I saw this, I saw that, and wow, that's something I saw at one point, and I got a story for you, or this and that. And I think your type of work, in particular, MonsterQuest, have really opened things up for people who have kind of been lying in the shadows.
Well, I hope so. I mean, every time a show comes on TV, it certainly started a whole bunch of shows in that genre. It's going to give people courage because they see it on TV and they go, hey, that person's brave enough, or they listen to it on a podcast. These podcasts are also very valuable. It's one reason I do a podcast. Just because if we don't start sharing knowledge, all we're doing is wasting our lives. Literally, we're wasting our life. Because what are we all here to do, Lon? We're all here to learn.
Sure.
What other purpose could there possibly be?
Well,
I doubt we're here to make plastic. You know what I mean? I doubt we're here to flush things down the toilet. We must be here, to gather knowledge, and human beings do that best. But I think we're all here, all animals, everything. We're here to gather knowledge, and so if we're not communicating, we're definitely not gathering as much.
Well, and it's another thing I got to thank you for with MonsterQuest. It's kind of made me feel better about presenting things like the way I have over the years.
Yeah,
I've been less reluctant to put things out there, and believe me, and I put a lot of things out there that have raised eyebrows, but I consider myself a storyteller basically, and I when people call me or text me or whatever and tell me something, I become a part of that event, and I feel obligated to tell it as they told it to me, and let the readers decide, what they believe.
Well, think about back then, Lon. There were hardly any websites. There was Cryptomundo, as I remember.
Yeah,
there was nowhere even for us to go.
Right.
If you were interested in the topic. I think Bobby Short had a website. I mean, there was just so few. You did. And I remember the first time I came upon, I can't remember the guy's name, but he had unknown humanoids or something. Humanoid sightings.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of his name. I really respect the guy. But he was just documenting these humanoid stories from all over the world. You'd read that stuff and you're just like, oh my God,
I think you're talking about Albert Rosales.
Yes, that's him.
Yeah. Yeah, Albert and I actually we've been connected together on a lot of this stuff for over a decade now.
But he was another pioneer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's a niche he found, and he thought, well, people needed to know, and he was taking reports from all over the world, and of course, he being Hispanic and having connections to that community and to other countries south of him. He was able to present that stuff, and groundbreaking. I mean, I've used his information, and I'm very appreciative of him allowing me to do so. There's a few of us have been out there a while. You think about it.
Yeah, and like Lauren Coleman. Matt. Billy, and God, there's a number of people that if it wasn't for just this core of people, I would have thought I was going crazy, having all this interest in, all these things. But anyhow, so thank God. But boy, so I get on Facebook in November, Lon, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like 10,000 Bigfoot groups and UFO groups and paranormal monster groups and cryptid groups and whatever. I mean, there's groups for groups, and I was just shocked.
Yeah,
I was really shocked. It's good. I mean, things have changed. Things have really changed.
It's made it easier for me. I mean, I gotta admit that. I like the fact that maybe I can go surfing or looking around on threads and looking around here and there, and I'll come across something, and it's like, well, that's a new one. Let me contact this person and get the full story. And I, like with this thing with going on in and around Chicago, I have gotten a few of those from people who have kind of, I saw this and that, and not too specific. And you know how that is. That happens. Yeah, I'm quite sure you're going through it too. And you contact them, and wow, the floodgates open. It's there. It's raw, and they're there. Well, and the first thing they always say to you, you're not going to believe this. Well, I will believe almost anything at this point. I've seen so many and heard so many things.
Well, I remember when I talked to you and told you about my Mothman sighting.
Mm-hmm.
I actually felt like a load off after talking to you, because you just keep it bottled up.
And people react like that. They absolutely do. It's fascinating, but it's funny how these type of encounters, even though they're dramatic, it really imprints the experiencer. It's something that never leaves them. They always remember it, and you 50 years down the road, they'll come up with the same thing and tell you, well, let me tell you this story and that story. And some of the most fascinating incidents are something that happened that long ago, and they've been afraid to tell anybody about it. And wow, when they get that opportunity, that's when you really start seeing some of the history and some of the background to some of this phenomena.
Some of the weird thing is about, like, I think back on cryptids or things that I've seen,
mm-hmm.
things are so spaced out. It isn't like something's happened to you every week. I remember in the 90s, I'm driving down the road with my son Blaine, and it's kind of a light drizzly rain, and we see this little creature like jumping boom, 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 boom across the road, kind of this real jerky action, but it's on 2 feet. And all of a sudden it leaps over a guardrail and runs down to the lake. And I remember Blaine going, what was that, Dad? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know what. It wasn't like, this isn't the kind of sighting you're going to go tell a bunch of people about, because it's just kind of quick and a little weird. For all I know, it was a raccoon with no front legs. But then you think about it and you go, no, it had long white hair. No, it leaped over the guardrail on 2 feet. And you just start thinking, and, your brain just wants to shut it off.
Right.
There's another time down the same road lawn, driving down with the wife. I just sat down having a few drinks with the sheriff, just a couple. So I'm with the sheriff, okay. We just got together to visit socially. So I had maybe 2 beers, get in my car, driving back. And all of a sudden, I see these eyes at the side of the road, on the left side, and whatever it was leaped in my car, instantly slammed into my car, and put its head right at face to face with this creature. I have no idea what it was. It looked kind of dog-like,
mm-hmm.
but it kind of didn't. It kind of looked human, but then it didn't look human. It had like eyes that were very far forward, like a bulldog.
Mm-hmm.
One of those old bulldogs with the bulgy eyes.
Right.
But it pooped all over the whole side of my van.
Wow.
So I get home and I'm like looking for dents on the side of my car, because there was no doubt it attacked my vehicle. It was safely at the side and then leaped at my car and attacked my window and slammed its body up. But those are the kinds of things that where are you gonna put a story like that? I'm not gonna call the BFRO. It's not a Bigfoot sighting.
I'm the guy you call.
Yeah, I guess it would be something. You're probably the closest person you could tell a story.
Yeah.
But those are the weird things that happen in life that you don't know what to do with.
Sure.
But
yeah, I hear it all the time. And it's and they make fascinating encounters. They really do.
Yeah.
Let me ask you before we go, Doug, what's the future of White Wolf Entertainment? Are you going into more, other areas of production, or what's the future call?
Well, I mean, I've always done other shows. I've done, every show. I've done shows about babies for Discovery Channel. Done all sorts of different things, but I'm trying to I'd really like to get 2 more series.
Mm-hmm.
And then be able at some point, to get too old to just turn them over to somebody else. But that's my goal to land another series or two at this point. It's time to get, really get back to that kind of work again because I really love it. Yep.
Well, I think you and I have to talk in the near future about something.
Call me anytime.
Well, I appreciate it. And hey, thanks again for coming on with me. I really appreciate it. And I know our listeners are fascinated by you and what you've done, and especially the nexus of MonsterQuest. So, hey, you take it easy and you have a real safe and enjoyable weekend.
You too, Lon. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it. You're fun to talk to. All right, bye.
Now, if you have an unexplained encounter or sighting, feel free to contact me through Phantoms Monsters blog site. I want to again thank Doug Hajicek for joining me this evening. And thanks to each and all of you for watching and chatting. If you made a super donation, truly appreciate it. This is what keeps us going. Please like, subscribe, and share. Now, next week, and in fact, the next 2 weeks, Arcane Radio is going to be dark. I got a medical procedure I got to go through next week, and then I'm going to do a bit of entertaining the week after that. So we'll be back, and I'll announce the guest we will have in the near future, and we'll go from there. But until the next time we meet, stay healthy and have a safe, enjoyable weekend. Good night.